This week, down below in the comments, why don't you tell me your favorite horror or horror-adjacent television show that's currently airing? Not something that, wrapped up 5 years ago, but something that is currently on the air. You could probably guess mine by looking at the title of this video, but let's discuss. Let's have a conversation. Hey guys, I'm Adam Caesar. This is Project Black T-shirt, and today we're going to be talking about Channel Zero Butcher's Block, Channel Zero as a whole, an entire anthology series, why I think it's so great, why I think you should be watching it if you haven't given it the chance, especially if you like the stuff we talk about on this channel, this kind of intersection between horror fiction, horror literature, and horror film, and sometimes television, although I don't think we really talk about TV a lot, and those two things kind of coming together and making a beautiful, horrific baby like they do in Channel Zero. And as we do every week, I'm going to give you a book recommendation, but this week I'm not only going to give you one book recommendation, I'm going to give you kind of three, so keep watching for that, and we'll probably talk books and literature a little longer than we usually do, don't destroy my watch time by clicking away. Talking about Channel Zero, I first kind of have to start out with a confession, because I'm going to get a little, lectury and holier than thou, and it's like, oh, if you're not watching this show, you really should be. I watched the first few episodes of the first season of Candle Cove, really enjoyed them, and then as kind of happens with television, as kind of happens that might happen to some of you, I know it happens to me because I'm such a movie-centric guy, I kind of took a huge break and caught up with the back 3 episodes of the first season on demand. They're only 6-episode seasons, we'll talk about that a little bit later. The No End House, and now we're on Butcher's Block, which is the season that's currently airing, has only aired 2 episodes at the time that I'm filming this video. Before we talk about Butcher's Block specifically, and we're not going to talk spoilers, it's not going to be like, these aren't episode recaps, because I don't do that kind of stuff. Like, I don't need to regurgitate the plot to something that Sci-Fi's offering for free right now. You can just watch the first 2 episodes. It's less than 2 hours of your life, and then come back and we can discuss it and why it's good and what works about it and stuff like that. But before we talk about Butcher's Block this season specifically, I want to talk about Channel Zero as a whole and why I think it's so novel, why it's so interesting. First of all, each season of Channel Zero is based on creepypastas. Now, I probably sound like a real oldo when I talk about creepypastas, and I know that some of my viewers are even more mature than I am and maybe don't know what creepypastas is. It sounds like a Kraft macaroni dish, but it's not. They're these kind of internet urban legends that mix up, short stories, sometimes have like multimedia components to them, like Slender Man and Marble Hornets, and all these little meme culture, creepy modern urban legends. They all kind of fall into this no sleep creepypasta banner of online short stories. To the best of my understanding, usually written and definitely patronized by younger readers and writers, and I think that scene is fascinating, but I don't really have a kind of dog in that fight. I think it's incredible ingenuity, and the way that it's kind of a lot of this stuff is released for free and released anonymously. And horror writing and genre and speculative writing very much divorced from a traditional canon of literature and publishing, which I think is very fascinating. And a lot of them have this real tonal, this really happened, this happened to a kid I know, feeling to them, and that's why they make such great adaptation material. As I might have mentioned, these are 6-episode kind of mini-series, limited event series. Each one they're not interrelated at all. They're not a Cloverfield type thing where in a couple of years we're going to just CGI a monster and everything. Each one, and this is kind of the kicker for snobs like me, each one is directed entirely by a single director. So first season, second season, third season, all 6 episodes directed by the same person, so they have this kind of tonal and visual continuity between the episodes. This season, Butcher's Block is directed by Arkasha Stevenson. I hope I'm saying that right. She, by all rights, I've only seen this kind of 2 hours of material she's done. I know she has 1 or 2 feature films. I they're high on my list of things to get to. I have to find out where they could be rented or streaming, because after these 2 episodes, she's clearly got a visual style that melds with me and jives with me, and I want to watch more of her stuff. And that's kind of where we get into talking about Butcher's Block and Channel Zero as a whole, because it has this limited nature, because they feel like, you know, 5-6 hour movies when they're all said and done. It's almost like they're not television, and I know that critics had this discussion when it came to Twin Peaks: The Return. Was it the best film of 2017? Which seems a little bit silly when you're talking about something that's, you know, 18 hours and was clearly serialized and would be hard to stay awake for, you know, 18 hours to watch in a row like a film. But it's an interesting springboard of a question, like what constitutes film, what constitutes cinema. I would say things like Channel Zero are getting a lot closer than the other horror television shows that are on right now. It's kind of a hybrid. Even HBO isn't really doing with like Westworld and stuff like that. Those are serialized TV. It's not really what this is doing, which has a set beginning, end point, and that continuity of creative team like we were talking about. Butcher's Block, very briefly, is a tale of 2 sisters who move to a new small town, kind of looking to start their lives over after their mom has a possibly violent, psychotic, schizophrenic break. The one sister has shown signs, has exhibited that she has schizophrenia, just like her mother has. Our kind of POV protagonist character is going through this crisis of, wow, this is a hereditary illness. I may have it too. So she's dealing with a lot, trying to take care of her sister, and they move to probably the worst place to facilitate this am I seeing things, am I hallucinating thing they both got going on. They move adjacent to a district called Butcher's Block, which is a lower income area. It's built around this defunct meatpacking plant that used to be owned by this crazy aristocratic family that may or may not have reason to be taking revenge on the poor of Butcher's Block and killing them, and maybe even eating them, because it's a meatpacking plant, and Rutger Hauer plays the patriarch of this ghostly interdimensional abattoir family. And if this sounds like I'm doing a poor job explaining the plot, Channel Zero, Butcher's Block, has a very kind of diffuse and dreamlike plot, and the best thing that you could probably compare it to, if you want to compare it to a movie or you want to compare it to something that horror fans will kind of instantly key on, oh, I know that tone and I know that idea, is Phantasm. And this particular season takes a lot of inspiration from Don Coscarelli's Phantasm films, has that kind of dreamlike quality. It even has creepy dwarves and interdimensional marble staircases. So it's very clearly inspired in some respects by that, but then you've got elements of, as I mentioned, Twin Peaks. You've got a kind of cop small town conspiracy going on, and some kind of cover-up. You've got themes about class warfare and struggles with mental illness. It is really densely packed, especially because we've only seen 2 episodes. At this point in 2 episodes of a TV series, you usually wouldn't have had this much happen. What I like about this show in general is that as strapped for time as we can be, as strapped for competing with movies as television has to do, at least for my attention, I like things that are more condensed, that get to the point. And the show very much does, while not feeling rushed. It's very atmospheric, great cinematography, great cast. It's just really, really, really well put together. So that's it. That's really all I'm going to do to talk about Channel Zero and Butcher's Block. I'm not going to do a follow-up video. I'm not going to do kind of like a, episode recaps and things like that, because I don't really do that, and I just wanted to get the word out about the show, see if you guys were watching it, what you thought of it. We can have a discussion as, episode 3, 4, 5, and 6 air. We can talk down in the comments about what we like, what we don't like, our hopes for whatever the next basis for the next season is going to be, things like that, if you guys want to do that. So as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we have kinda 3 book recommendations to get to today. The first one was going to be the creator of Channel Zero, Nick Antosca. I guess creator, maybe showrunner, I'm not exactly sure of his title, but I know that he is creatively involved and is one of the chief creative minds behind Channel Zero. He's an author. I was reading his work before all this, TV stuff. I know he had worked on Hannibal, things like that, and before this TV stuff started happening with him. And he had a really great novel called The Hangman's Ritual, which would have been my big book recommendation for this week, but I think it's out of print. I went on Amazon and I couldn't find the ebook for it. The paperback seems to be like secondhand sellers selling it. So The Hangman's Ritual, if it ever comes back into print, that would be a really great starting point for Nick Antosca. As it stands now, his collection of stories called The Girlfriend Game is another really great place to start, especially if you like this kind of melding of like real-world grief with otherworldly genre elements with a kind of a little bit more of a highbrow bend. That's The Girlfriend Game and Nick Antosca's writing in general in a nutshell. And my third book recommendation is another little bit of a nepotism thing because it is being released through Black T-Shirt Books, which is the press label that I help get these authors out in the world with. It's Aaron Dry's The Fallen Boys. Aaron Dry's a fantastic author, a fantastic, emotionally horrific author from Australia. If you haven't read his novels before, if you haven't read something like The House of Sighs, which is a fantastic real-world horror book, kind of a Jack Ketchum style emotional torment book, it's really great. It's really affecting and really sad. But The Fallen Boys has more of a Channel Zero connection to it, has more of a creepypasta element to it, because it has a father trying to unravel the mystery surrounding his son's apparent suicide and what the internet and what these kind of dark forces on the internet have to do tracking down with his son's death in this mysterious forest and all this stuff. So it's, if you like Channel Zero, if you like creepypasta and you want to tackle a novel that has that same kind of flavoring to it, please check out The Fallen Boys. It's now on ebook and paperback. I'll put the links, as with everything I discussed, I'll put the links down in the description to check that out. I know Aaron will be very happy that you do. A couple weeks ago, you might remember that I talked about Matt Serafini's Devil's Row, author of Feral. That book's doing really well, and Matt thanks you all for checking it out and reading it. If you support these Black T-Shirt Books authors, you're help supporting the whole team. I don't make any money from it. The authors keep all the royalties, all the proceeds, but the team is strong if you choose to pick up one of these books and read it. That's everything. That's all my spiel. If you want to learn more about me, Adam Caesar, or you want to check out any of my books or short stories or sometimes comics they get me to write, there's links to my mailing list. I'll send you a free sample. There's links to my website all down there. Follow me on Twitter, like my Facebook page, all that, horrible social media stuff that rots your brain. I'm Adam Caesar. This has been Project Black T-Shirt. I'll see you next Friday.